Unknown boy fixes combine harvester, but when farmer discovers his name, he cries. Robert Johnson woke up that May morning with the weight of the world on his shoulders. The corn harvest was delayed because of the rains, and now that the sun had finally returned, his main combine harvester was broken, leaving tons of grain waiting in the field. That's when he heard the sound of the engine running perfectly. Rushing out of the house, he saw a young boy in a cap and overalls working under the giant red machine. The boy couldn't have been more than 16, but his hands moved with the precision of an experienced mechanic. "Hey, boy! What are you doing there?" shouted Robert, still trying to figure out how someone had gotten onto his property. The boy crawled out from under the combine, wiping his greasy hands on an old rag. He had messy brown hair and light eyes that seemed to hold secrets. "Your transmission system was locked up, sir. I fixed it," the boy said, avoiding direct eye contact with the farmer. "What do you mean, fixed it? Who are you? How did you get in here?" "The side gate was open. I saw you were in trouble and decided to help." Robert approached the machine, skeptical. 3 different mechanics had come during the week, all saying they'd need to order parts from Chicago, which would take at least 10 days. But there was his combine, purring like new. "That's impossible." Old Joe said the problem was serious. "Sometimes things seem more complicated than they are," the boy replied, already packing his tools into an old metal box. "Wait, how much do I owe you?" "Nothing, sir. Just wanted to help." Before Robert could insist or ask anything else, the boy had already disappeared into the corn stalks, leaving only the smell of diesel oil and a strange feeling in the farmer's chest. Mary, his wife, appeared on the porch, drying her hands on her floral apron. "Robert, who were you talking to?" "A strange boy who fixed our combine." "What boy?" "I'd like to know too." All day as he harvested with the machine running perfectly, Robert couldn't stop thinking about the mysterious young man. There was something familiar about those precise movements, the way the boy handled the gears. It reminded him of someone, but he couldn't place who. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. The next afternoon, Bill Tucker, the farm's foreman, came to the main house with a confused look on his face. "Boss, something strange is going on." "What now, Bill?" "Yesterday, I saw that same boy watching the farm from a distance, over by the old road. He's been showing up there for about 3 weeks now." "3 weeks? Why didn't you tell me sooner?" "I thought it was just a kid's curiosity, but this morning when I went to check the irrigation system in the north field, I found him working on the pipes." Robert set his coffee down abruptly and stood up. "And you let him?" "When I got close, he ran off. But boss, the system was working better than ever. That annoying leak in Sector 3 was completely gone." "That doesn't make sense. No one fixes irrigation without knowing the system inside out." "That's exactly what's got me puzzled. The boy worked like he knew every inch of our pipe network." Mary joined the conversation, bringing a pitcher of cold lemonade. "Are you talking about the boy from yesterday?" "Yeah, Mary. Seems like he's been hanging around the farm for a while." "How strange. Emily mentioned seeing a young man at the town cemetery last week." Robert stopped drinking his lemonade. "At the cemetery?" "She said he was standing in front of Richard's grave." The name hit Robert Johnson like a punch to the gut. Richard Miller had been the best mechanic the farm ever had, working with them for nearly 15 years until that terrible fight tore them apart for good. "Are you sure it was the same boy?" "Emily said he was carrying an old toolbox and stayed there a long time, like he was talking to someone." That night, Robert couldn't sleep. Memories of Richard came rushing back. The man had arrived at the farm in the early 2000s, a skilled mechanic who understood machines like few others. Always quiet, hard-working, but with a special way of caring for the equipment that bordered on love. The separation had been painful. An argument over work methods that escalated into something much worse, words that shouldn't have been said, accusations that wounded pride. Richard had left one December morning, taking only his tools and leaving behind 15 years of partnership. Robert had never admitted it, but the farm was never the same without him. The next morning, an unexpected storm hit the area. Strong winds knocked branches onto power lines, damaging several pieces of equipment. The grain silo's cooling system stopped completely, putting the entire harvest at risk. It was nearly midnight when Robert heard noises coming from the main barn. He grabbed a flashlight and went to investigate, thinking it might be thieves. What he found left him speechless. The mysterious boy was working on the backup generator, his hands covered in grease glistening under the moonlight. He'd managed to restore power and was adjusting the silo's ventilation system. "You again?" The young man turned, but this time he didn't run. "You'd have lost everything if the system wasn't fixed by morning." "How do you know that?" "Wet grain spoils fast in high heat. Basic stuff." Robert stepped closer slowly, as if afraid the boy might vanish again. "Are you going to tell me who you are, or do I have to call the police?" "No need to call anyone, I'm just paying a debt." "What debt? I've never seen you before." The boy hesitated, nervously fidgeting with the tool in his hand. "Not my debt exactly." "Whose then?" "Someone who taught me everything about machines. Someone who always talked about this farm." Robert's heart raced. "Richard?" The young man lowered his eyes and nodded slowly. "He was my grandfather." The silence that followed was broken only by the hum of the generator running smoothly. Robert's legs weakened, and he had to lean against a wooden beam. "Your grandfather? He passed 6 months ago. Lung cancer." I didn't know." "No way you could have. Grandpa never wanted anything to do with anyone here after what happened." Robert closed his eyes, remembering their last argument. Harsh words, wounded pride, a 15-year friendship destroyed in minutes. "What did he tell you about me?" "That you were a good man who lost his temper on a bad day. Said he'd said things he didn't really mean." "And you? What do you think?" "I think 2 stubborn people ruined a good partnership over foolish pride." The boy's honesty cut deep. Robert knew it was true. "What's your name, son?" "Jason. Jason Miller." "Where'd you learn to fix machines like this?" "From my grandpa. Since I was little, he'd take me to his workshop in Springfield. Said I had a knack for it, that I took after the family." "And your parents?" "My mom works at a factory in Chicago. My dad, never met him." Robert saw a shadow of sadness cross the young man's face. "How'd you end up here?" "After Grandpa passed, I found some of his papers, blueprints, sketches, letters he never sent. Everything about this farm. He had plans to improve every piece of equipment here. Letters? Letters for you. Apologizing, explaining things. But he never had the courage to send them." Robert Johnson felt a tightness in his chest. "Did you bring those letters?" "They're in my saddlebag, over there on the bike." "Can I see them?" Jason hesitated before nodding. They walked over to the red motorcycle parked behind the main barn. The young man pulled out a worn leather folder and handed it to Robert Johnson. "Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, back to the story." Under the lantern light, Robert Johnson opened the first letter. Richard's neat handwriting leaped off the page like a ghost from the past. "Robert Johnson, it's been 2 years since we parted ways, and not a day goes by that I don't think about how things could have been different. I know we both said things we should have kept to ourselves. I want you to know I never doubted your character. I just disagreed with your methods that day." Robert Johnson had to stop reading because his eyes blurred. Did he write many? 1 a year, for 15 years. 15 years. He always said one day he'd find the courage to look for you, but time passed and pride won out. Robert Johnson flipped through the letters quickly, seeing dates marking birthdays, Christmases, births. Richard had followed the farm's life from afar all those years. "Why did you come here, Jason? What's this debt you mentioned?" "In his last weeks, Grandpa made me promise something. He said this farm was in his blood, that he'd helped build every improvement here. He asked me to take care of his legacy." "Take care how?" "Making sure the equipment runs perfectly, that the improvements he planned get done, that the farm thrives." "But why in secret?" "Because he said you were too proud to accept help from anyone in the Miller family." Robert Johnson put the letters away slowly, feeling the weight of 15 years of regret. Your grandfather was wrong about one thing. What? I'm the one who should have apologized. I was the one who lost my temper that day. Grandpa used to say the same about himself. Two stubborn old men. Yeah, but now one of them can make things right. Robert Johnson looked at the young man in front of him. Jason had the same determined eyes as Richard, the same passion for machinery, the same calm way of speaking. Do you want to work here officially? You don't have to, sir. I can keep helping now and then. That's not what I'm asking. I'm offering a real job, with pay, paperwork, everything proper. Jason was silent for a long moment. You're sure? I am. In fact, I've got a better offer. What? Where are you staying now? A boarding house in Springfield, paid by the week. How about moving here? There's a spare room in the foreman's house, and Mary loves having young folks around. Jason's eyes shone in the dark. You'd really do that? Your grandfather was like a brother to me for 15 years. Your family, Jason. But we barely know each other. Knowing someone takes time, trust is another thing. And I trusted you the moment I saw our combine harvester running perfectly. The next morning, Jason arrived early with a small backpack and the same toolbox his grandfather had used. Mary welcomed him like a grandson she hadn't seen in years, insisting he have a hearty breakfast before starting any work. Robert Johnson told me about your grandfather, she said, serving warm biscuits. Richard was a special man. You remember him? How could I forget? He fixed our washing machine when no repairman in town could. He said he could handle women's problems too. Jason smiled for the first time since arriving at the farm. Grandpa always had a way with people. He sure did. That's why I never really understood what happened between him and Robert that day. What do you remember? Mary sighed, stirring sugar into her coffee. It was an argument about investments. Robert wanted to buy new equipment, and Richard thought the old ones still had plenty of life left if they were well maintained. And who was right? Both of them. Robert was thinking about future productivity, and Richard was thinking about saving money now. Two valid views that could have been reconciled. But they weren't. Sadly, no. A man's pride is a terrible thing, son. Emily, Robert's daughter, walked into the kitchen still in her pajamas. At 28, she'd just graduated in farm management and was helping run the place. You're the boy I saw at the cemetery, she said, recognizing Jason right away. You saw me there. I did. You stood by Mr. Richard's grave for a long time. Jason looked down. I was talking to him, telling him about the farm, about the equipment I've been fixing. Do you believe he hears you? I believe that as long as we take care of what he loved, a part of him stays alive. Emily sat at the table, moved by his answer. Dad told me you're his grandson. I am. Then you're welcome here. This farm is part of your story too. Over the next few days, Jason proved his worth time and again. Not only did he fix broken equipment, but he also made small improvements that boosted efficiency without costing much. Where does he get these ideas? Bill Tucker asked Robert, watching Jason install a simple system that reduced feed waste in the corral. It's in his blood, Bill. Some folks are just born with a knack for this. Just like Richard. Just like him. But something bothered Robert. At times, Jason showed knowledge of the farm that went beyond what any outsider could know. He knew shortcuts between the barns, where specific tools were kept, and routines that had taken years to establish. One afternoon, Robert decided to confront him. Jason, can I ask you something straight? Of course, sir. How do you know so much about our farm? It's not just the machines. You know this place like someone who's lived here. Jason stopped working on the tractor and turned slowly. Grandpa brought me here a few times when I was little. When? On weekends. He said he wanted to show me where he'd been happy. Did he sneak onto the farm? Not exactly sneaking. More like nostalgic visits. We always kept our distance, just watching. Robert felt a pang in his chest. How long did this go on? Till I was 12. Then he stopped, said it wasn't right. And you remember everything? Every detail. Grandpa explained how every system worked, where each piece of equipment was, what every building was for. Why did he do that? I think it was his way of keeping his connection to this place alive, and maybe preparing me in case I ever got to come back. That night, Robert talked at length with Mary about it. "Have you noticed how Jason has family mannerisms?" she remarked, knitting a blanket for the coming winter. "How so?" "The way he eats, greets people, behaves at the table, reminds me of you when you were young." "Mary, that's a strange thing to say." "Not strange, just a woman's observation. That boy carries more than just his grandfather's knowledge." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. The following week, something happened that would change everything. Jason was organizing the workshop when he found an old cardboard box hidden behind a shelf. Inside were old farm documents, including employment contracts from decades past. "Mr. Robert Johnson," Jason called, his voice strange. "You need to see this." Robert approached and saw what had unsettled the young man. It was an employment contract for Richard Miller, dated 1998. But that wasn't what caught his eye. It was a handwritten note at the bottom of the document. "Employee recommended by John Johnson. Possible unresolved family matter." "Who is John Johnson?" Jason asked. Robert felt the world spin around him. John Johnson was his father's name. "He was my father. He passed away 20 years ago. But why does it say unresolved family matter? I don't know." But Robert knew he was lying. A very old memory was trying to form in his mind, like a blurry photo slowly coming into focus. That night, Robert went to his mother's room. Mrs. Dorothy, now 82, still lived in the main house on the farm. She was reading the Bible when he knocked. "Mom, I need to ask you something about Dad." "What is it, son?" "Do you remember a worker named Richard Miller?" Mrs. Dorothy grew very still, closing the Bible slowly. "Why are you asking that? I found some old documents. It seems Dad had some special connection to him." "Robert, some things from the past are better left alone." "Mom, Richard's grandson is working here. He's a good young man, and I need to understand what's going on." Mrs. Dorothy sighed deeply, as if carrying a weight for decades. "Your father had another child before we married." The silence that followed was deafening. "Another child?" "With a girl who worked in town. She left when she found out she was pregnant, said she didn't want to interfere with our marriage." "And Dad knew?" "He knew. Always knew. He tried to find them many times, but the girl had disappeared completely." "Was the child's name Richard?" "Richard Miller." The mother used her last name. Robert sank into a chair, trying to process the information. "Richard was my half-brother." "Yes, and when he came here looking for work, your father recognized some of the Johnson family traits. He couldn't bring himself to tell the truth, but he always treated him like a son." "Why did no one ever tell me?" "Your father died before finding the right moment, and after, I thought it was best to leave things as they were." "Mom, does this mean Jason is my nephew?" "It means he's family, Robert. Our family." That night, Robert didn't sleep a wink. Everything made sense now. Richard's natural skill with machines, a trait of the Johnson men, his passion for the farm, which ran in their blood, even the stubbornness that had driven them apart. They were brothers, and they'd wasted 15 years because of pride and miscommunication. The next morning, Robert found Jason in the barn, where the young man was installing a new automated irrigation system. "Jason, I need to tell you something." "What is it, sir?" "About your grandfather and our family." Jason stopped working and turned, sensing the seriousness in Robert's tone. "Your grandfather wasn't just a worker on this farm. He was my half-brother." Jason's face went pale. "What do you mean?" "My father had another child before marrying my mother. That child was Richard, your grandfather." Jason leaned against the workbench, trying to process the information. "This means that... It means you're my nephew, Jason. You're part of the Johnson family." The young man fell silent for a long moment, nervously fiddling with a wrench. "Did Grandpa know about this?" "I suspect he had his doubts. Some things he said, the way he talked about the farm, It was like it was his too. It was his by right. Robert Johnson nodded. It was. And now I understand why the separation hurt him so much. He wasn't just losing a job. He was losing family. And you? How do you feel knowing this? Like a fool who wasted 15 years fighting with his own brother. Jason wiped his eyes with his shirt sleeve. Grandpa always said life's too short to hold grudges. He was right, as he always was. What does this change for me? It changes everything and nothing. You were already welcome here. Now you're welcome by right. In the days that followed, Robert shared the discovery with the rest of the family. Mary cried with emotion. Emily hugged Jason like the cousin she'd never known. And even Mrs. Dorothy seemed relieved the secret was finally out. "I always thought you two looked alike," Mary remarked during dinner. "Now I know why." "Alike how?" Jason asked, curious. "The way you raise your eyebrows when you're focused, the habit of whistling while you work, the stubbornness to never leave a job half done." "Traits of the Johnson family," Robert said, smiling. But Jason still had secrets. One night, Robert found him in the farm office, examining old documents with a magnifying glass. "What are you looking for?" "Trying to understand something Grandpa told me before he passed." "What was it?" "He said he'd left something here on the farm, something that would one day belong to me by right." "What kind of thing?" "I don't know. He was a bit confused in his last days, talking about important papers and unclaimed inheritances." Robert felt a chill. "Shall we look together?" They spent the whole night sifting through old files, stored contracts, forgotten documents in dusty drawers. It was nearly morning when Jason shouted excitedly, "Mr. Robert, I found it." It was a sealed envelope with the name Richard Miller, written in careful script. "That's my father's handwriting," Robert said, recognizing it. Inside the envelope were a letter and some legal documents. "Richard, my son, if you're reading this, it means you finally found your place in this family. This farm was built by the labor of two brothers, even if one didn't know the other existed. By right and by justice, half of everything here is yours. The attached documents legally divide the property. Use it as you see fit, but always remember, family doesn't divide. It multiplies." Jason read the letter with trembling hands while Robert examined the documents. They were notarized deeds, property divisions dated 20 years earlier. "My father left half the farm to Richard." Seems so. "And Grandpa never claimed it." Apparently not. Must have thought he had no right. "But he did. He did. And now so do you." Jason stared at the papers as if they were bombs about to explode. "I don't want to divide anything, Mr. Robert. I didn't come here for money or land." "I know that. But it's yours by right. Then let's do something different." "Like what?" "Let's bring the two parts back together. Make this farm what it always should have been, a family business with everyone working together." Robert smiled, seeing in his nephew the same generosity that defined the Johnson men. "There's one condition." "What?" "You'll study. Having a knack for machines isn't enough. You need to understand business, modern farming, management. Grandpa always said that knowledge is the only inheritance no one can steal." Richard was wise. "And you're going to teach me?" "Me and Emily. She has excellent ideas for modernizing the farm." In the months that followed, Jason enrolled in an agribusiness technical course in the neighboring town, studying at night and working on the farm during the day. Robert Johnson implemented all the improvements Richard had planned over the years, using the designs his brother had left behind. The farm prospered like never before. The combination of Robert's experience, Emily's education, and Jason's technical skills created a synergy that multiplied productivity. "You know what impresses me the most?" Mary remarked one Sunday afternoon, watching uncle and nephew working together on the new irrigation system. "What?" asked Robert. "How Jason explains things just like Richard did. Patient, clear, never making anyone feel stupid." "It's a family gift," said Emily, joining the conversation. "Dad's the same way when he wants to be." "Hey!" protested Robert, feigning indignation. But inside, he was glowing. For the first time in 15 years, the farm felt complete. One afternoon, Jason came to Robert with a serious expression. "I need to tell you something." "Go ahead." "Grandpa didn't die of cancer." Robert stopped what he was doing. What do you mean? He was in good health. What happened was, he learned the truth about being your father's son. How did he find out? He found an old birth certificate among my grandmother's papers. Everything was there, his father's name, the dates, everything. And then, he was devastated. Not because he found out who his father was, but because he realized you two had fought without knowing you were brothers. Robert felt a tightness in his chest. What happened then? He had a heart attack. The doctor said it was too much emotion for his heart. Jason, he died thinking he'd lost the chance to reconcile with his brother forever. Robert bent over and cried as he hadn't in decades. He cried for the brother he'd never truly known, for the wasted years, for the words left unspoken. Jason knelt beside him and placed a hand on his uncle's shoulder. But he also left a message. What message? He said that if I ever managed to bring the family back together, he'd rest in peace. He said love is stronger than pride, and family is the only thing that really matters in life. He got what he wanted through you. We did it together. That night, Robert went to Jason's room and knocked. Can I come in? Of course, Uncle Robert. It was the first time the young man had called him uncle, and the word sounded like music. I want to make you an offer. I'm listening. How about you change your last name? What do you mean? Jason Johnson. I think it suits you. The young man was moved. You'd do that for me? I'd do it for us. For this family your grandfather helped bring together. And the Miller name? You can use both. Jason Miller Johnson. That way, you honor your grandfather and take the place that was always yours. The next day, they went to the registry office in town to start the name change process. The clerk, Mr. Wilson, who'd known Robert for decades, was intrigued by the request. Robert, is this young man related to you? He's my nephew, my brother's son. I didn't know you had a brother. I didn't either until recently. How so? Robert told the whole story to Mr. Wilson, who listened with growing interest. What a beautiful story, the clerk remarked afterward. Sounds like something out of a novel. Life is sometimes more interesting than any novel, Jason replied. 6 months later, Jason graduated from the technical course as the top student in his class. Robert Johnson and the whole family were at the graduation ceremony, applauding when the name Jason Miller Johnson was called. I'm proud of you, Robert whispered as Jason received his diploma. Grandpa would be proud of both of us, the young man replied. The farm kept growing. Jason implemented technologies that increased productivity by 40%, always remembering his grandfather's teachings about caring for the machines as if they were people. Emily took over the administrative side, modernizing management and opening new markets. Mary handled the household finances and became the adoptive grandmother Jason had never had. Mrs. Dorothy, at 83 years old, finally found peace, knowing the secret she had kept for decades had turned into unity instead of separation. A year after Jason's arrival, the farm was visited by a government technician for a quality certification. The man was impressed by the harmony between tradition and innovation. How did you manage to keep family efficiency in an operation this size? He asked Robert. Simple. We always remember that family isn't just blood. It's commitment, it's care, it's being there when needed. And how did you learn that? Robert looked at Jason, who was explaining how the new milking machine worked to some visitors. Through the pain of losing someone important and the joy of finding a family we didn't even know existed. On a September afternoon, exactly 2 years after Jason's arrival, Robert found him at the cemetery standing before Richard's grave. I was looking for you here, Robert said, walking closer. I was telling Grandpa about the new harvest. It's going to be the best in the last 10 years. He'd be proud. I always wonder what he'd say if he could see the farm today. I think he'd say love won over pride. Jason smiled, adjusting the flowers he had brought. Uncle Robert, can I ask you something? Of course. Do you regret anything that happened? Robert thought for a moment. I regret losing 15 years with my brother, but I don't regret the path that brought us here. Why? Because if things had been different, maybe you'd never have come to the farm. And today I can't imagine our family without you. Grandpa always said God writes straight with crooked lines. Richard was wise about many things. He was, and I hope to be half the man he was. Jason, you're already everything he dreamed you'd be. And then some. That evening, during family dinner, Jason made an announcement that surprised everyone. I want to tell you all something. What is it? Mary asked. I got a job offer in Chicago, a big agricultural machinery company. Silence fell over the table. Is it a good opportunity? Emily asked. Excellent. High salary, career plan, everything a young man could want. And are you going to take it? Robert asked, trying to hide the worry in his voice. Jason smiled. I already answered them. And what did you say? I thanked them for the opportunity, but said my place is here, with my family, taking care of the legacy my grandfather left me. Mary stood up and hugged him with tears in her eyes. Are you sure? Robert insisted. Absolutely, this farm is my blood, Uncle. It's where I belong. Even knowing you'll never get rich here? I'm already rich. I have family, I have purpose, I have love for what I do. What more could a man want? Robert stood and embraced his nephew. Richard couldn't have left a better inheritance than you. He left more than that. He left a lesson. That family is everything, that pride is foolish, and that love always finds a way to win. 3 years passed since that conversation. The Johnson family farm became a benchmark in the region, not just for its productivity, but for the family harmony it managed to maintain despite growing so much. Jason married an agronomist he met at the university where he did his graduate studies. Emily married a veterinarian from the neighboring town. The main house on the farm was once again filled with children's laughter as the first grandchildren arrived. Robert Johnson, now 65, had learned to share responsibilities and enjoy the family he had found so late in life. One May morning, 5 years after their first meeting, Jason approached Robert with a mysterious look on his face. Uncle, there's something I never told you. What is it now? Robert teased. On Grandpa's last day, he told me something I only now fully understand. What did he say? He said, Jason, one day you'll understand that I didn't bring you here to take care of machines. I brought you to take care of a family that had lost its way. Robert stopped what he was doing. And you understand now? I do. Grandpa knew you two were brothers. He always knew. How is that possible? He told me he once found an old photo in your office, a picture of your father when he was young. He looked just like Grandpa. And why didn't he ever say anything? Because he was afraid you wouldn't believe him, or worse, that you'd think he was trying to take advantage of the situation. So he planned everything from the start? He planned for me to come here to take care of the equipment, to show that we're a family of mechanics and farmers. He wanted you to discover me naturally. Robert fell silent for a long moment, amazed by the wisdom and patience of the brother he had lost. Richard was always smarter than me. He was patient. He knew some truths can only be discovered when we're ready for them. And now? Now we take care of what he loved, together. That afternoon, the two worked side by side, installing a new irrigation system in the field where Robert and Richard had once worked together so many years ago. You know something, Jason? What, Uncle? Your grandfather got what he wanted. He brought our family back together. He said family is like good soil. It might go untended for a while, but if you plant with love again, it always bears fruit. And it did. It gave us a whole family. As the sun set that day, Robert looked out at the farm, which had grown larger and more prosperous than he ever imagined. He watched Jason adjusting the last details of the equipment with the same dedication Richard had always shown. And for the first time in many years, Robert felt truly whole. The story of the Johnson farm became a legend in the region, an example of how love can overcome pride, how family can be found in the most unexpected places, and how some people can build bridges even after they're gone. Jason still visits his grandfather's grave every week, always bringing news of the farm Richard helped build and he helped reunite. And when people ask how a family can work so well together in business, Jason always answers with the words he learned from his grandfather. Family isn't just blood, it's commitment, it's care, it's being there when it matters. And when you truly understand that, there's no problem that can't be solved. The farm continues to grow, but it never loses the family character that made it special. Every piece of equipment is tended with care, every crop is treated with respect, and every family member knows they're contributing to something bigger than themselves. That's what Richard Miller always knew, even when he was apart from his family, that true love always finds a way back home, and in the end that's exactly what happened. The end. What a touching story. How did you feel following this journey of family reunion? Let us know in the comments what touched you most in this story. Do you think Jason made the right choice by deciding to stay on the farm? We'd love to hear your thoughts and find out where you're joining us from. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more heartwarming stories.